The sun was fading behind jagged mountains, painting the sky with red and orange streaks when John, a human explorer, stepped carefully over the broken stones. His boots crunched on the debris of a city long forgotten, a place where no human had set foot in decades. Every building was cracked, windows shattered, and the wind whispered through empty streets like soft, eerie voices. John tightened his jacket and held his flashlight higher, scanning the shadows. He had heard stories of this place, how entire alien civilizations once lived here. Now only silence remained, except for the strange echoes that bounced off ruined walls. Suddenly he stopped, freezing mid-step. A soft sound reached his ears, a small, shaky cry, almost like a child crying. He looked around but saw nothing, only piles of rubble and twisted metal. The cry came again, closer this time. A tiny voice filled with fear. John's heart skipped a beat. Could it be a survivor? He followed the sound carefully, stepping over broken beams. The ruins were dangerous. Any wrong step could send him falling into a deep pit or trap. As he turned a corner, he saw her, a small alien girl crouched behind a fallen wall. Her skin shimmered faintly under the fading sunlight, a color he had never seen. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and confusion. She clutched a small bundle of cloth to her chest. Trembling, John raised his hand slowly, trying not to scare her. "Hey, I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. The girl didn't answer, only stared at him with those big glowing eyes. Her gaze made his chest tighten. There was something in her eyes, something he couldn't describe. She was alone, too small to survive on her own in this dangerous place. The wind blew harder, carrying dust and small pieces of rubble through the air. John moved closer, speaking gently. "My name is John. Are you hurt? Can you stand?" The girl hesitated, then shook her head slowly. She didn't speak his language, but her fear and trust, or the lack of it, were clear. He noticed scars on her arms and legs, marks of injuries old and new. It was clear she had been hiding here for days, maybe weeks. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the distance. John stiffened, scanning the area. The ruins were supposed to be empty, but something or someone was watching. The girl flinched at the shadow too, pulling her small body closer to the wall. John felt a surge of protectiveness. He knew he had to help her, but he had no idea who or what might be nearby. He knelt down a little, trying to seem smaller and less threatening. "Don't be scared. I'll help you," he whispered. The girl slowly peeked from behind the wall, her small hand gripping the bundle tighter. Then, in a voice almost too soft to hear, she said something. It wasn't in any language he knew, but there was a sense of urgency in it. Her eyes darted toward the shadows again, fear flashing across her face. John's mind raced. Who left her here? Why was she alone? And what lurked in the ruins with her? He took a deep breath, deciding he couldn't just leave her. Carefully, he held out his hand, hoping she would trust him. The girl hesitated for a long moment, her gaze shifting between him and the dark shapes in the ruins. Finally, slowly, she reached out, her small hand trembling as it touched his. Something unspoken passed between them, a connection, fragile and delicate. John helped her to her feet, noticing how light and fragile she was. As they stepped carefully through the ruins together, the shadows seemed to grow closer. The wind carried whispers again, and John couldn't shake the feeling that danger was watching every step. But for now he had her, and she had him. And somehow, he knew this meeting was only the beginning of something much bigger, something that could change both their worlds. Above them, the sky turned a deep violet, and the first stars began to appear. The strange ruins were silent again, except for the soft steps of a human and an alien child walking together into the unknown. The alien girl clung to John's hand as they moved through the ruined streets. Her small body trembled with every step, yet she walked quickly, as if she knew where they had to go. John tried to speak gently. "It's okay. You're safe with me." But she didn't answer. Instead, her eyes darted nervously to the broken buildings around them. Every shadow, every crack in the walls seemed to hold a secret. John couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching them. They reached a wide, open courtyard where the ruins were more twisted and dangerous. Rubble formed jagged towers. and metal beams jutted from the ground like spikes. The girl stopped suddenly, pointing at a large, crumbling building ahead. Her hand shook as she traced strange symbols on the wall, symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. John bent closer to see. He had never seen anything like it, alien writing etched into the stone, glowing faint blue. She looked at him, eyes wide, and whispered again in her soft musical voice. John didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. She was asking him to follow, to trust. As they moved forward, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground. John paused, listening. The sound was mechanical, yet organic, like a heartbeat mixed with a machine. The girl's grip on his hand tightened, and she took the lead, moving with surprising confidence. John realized she was not just scared. She knew this place, maybe better than he did. He felt both relief and worry. How could she survive here alone? And what would they find inside? The entrance to the building was blocked by a pile of rubble, but the girl ran ahead, touching the stones. The glowing symbols shifted and shimmered under her fingers, and slowly the stones moved, sliding aside as if obeying her. John's jaw dropped. She wasn't just a child, she had some kind of power he couldn't explain. Wow. You did that? He asked softly, amazed. She nodded, then looked at him, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. He stepped inside carefully, the air cool and still, carrying a faint metallic smell. The interior was unlike anything John had seen before. Tall columns twisted like living trees, walls covered in alien markings. A soft, pale light came from cracks in the ceiling, illuminating strange machinery half buried in dust. The girl moved to one of the machines and touched it gently. The machine hummed to life, lights blinking, gears turning slowly. John realized the girl understood technology he could barely imagine. She was not only alien, she was brilliant beyond human understanding. Suddenly, the hum grew louder, vibrating through their bones. A shadow flickered in the corner of the room. Moving fast, almost invisible, the girl froze, her small body stiff with fear. John held out his hand, whispering, "I've got you. Whatever it is, we face it together." The shadow paused, then vanished into the darkness, leaving only the soft echo of its movement. The girl let out a tiny sigh of relief, leaning slightly against John. He realized then that she trusted him completely, more than anyone had ever trusted him before. She turned to him and with her small hands, tried to communicate something urgent. She gestured to the machine, then to herself, then to the shadows outside. John slowly understood. She was showing him that the building, the machines, even the symbols, they were all part of a warning. Something dangerous had come to the city, and she had been hiding here ever since. Her people, or whoever had destroyed her home, were still out there, watching, waiting. John swallowed hard, feeling a mix of awe and fear. He knelt down to her level. "I promise. I won't let anyone hurt you. We'll figure this out together." The girl looked at him, a faint glimmer of hope shining in her eyes. For the first time she smiled, a small, fragile smile, but full of trust. John knew that this was just the beginning. Whatever awaited them in the ruins, whatever secrets she held, it was now their journey together. As they left the room, moving deeper into the building, the symbols on the walls shimmered again. The hum of the machinery followed them like a heartbeat. Outside, the shadows shifted, and John felt the weight of unseen eyes on them. But he didn't hesitate. He held her hand tighter, stepping forward into the unknown, because now, he was not just an explorer in a ruined city. He was a protector, a guardian of a small alien girl who could change everything. And somewhere in the distance, a faint whisper of a voice seemed to answer them, calling out from beyond the ruins. A voice that promised danger, and maybe hope too. John and the alien girl had barely stepped into the deeper part of the ruins when a sudden sound froze them both. A low, guttural growl echoed from the shadows, bouncing off broken walls and empty buildings. The girl's eyes widened, and she tugged harder at John's hand, pulling him toward a narrow alley. He could feel her fear. It was sharp, urgent, and contagious. He whispered, "Stay close. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." The alley was tight, littered with rubble and twisted metal. Every step was dangerous. but the girl moved like she had done this before, weaving around obstacles effortlessly. John struggled to keep up, his heart pounding in his chest. Behind them, the growls grew louder, closer, faster. Shadows danced along the walls as something massive, something fast, chased them. Suddenly, a creature leapt from the darkness, a blur of claws and fangs, eyes glowing red. John reacted instinctively. Pushing the girl behind him, the creature snarled, snapping at the air where they had stood seconds before. He grabbed a broken pipe from the ground, swinging it at the monster. The creature hissed and backed off for a moment, then lunged again. John felt the weight of the moment. The ruins were alive with danger, and every step could be their last. The girl screamed softly, not in fear but in warning. She pointed to a side passage, barely visible behind a collapsed wall. John understood immediately. They had to move now. He grabbed her hand again, running as fast as he could, dodging rubble and debris. The creature pursued, fast and relentless, its claws scraping the stone, sparks flying with every strike. As they ran, John noticed strange markings glowing faintly on the walls. The girl touched them briefly as they passed, and the symbols pulsed in response. It was as if she was using the ruins themselves to guide them. He realized then that she wasn't just an ordinary child. She was connected to this place in a way he couldn't understand. Her movements were precise, almost like she could sense the traps and dangers ahead. John could only follow, trusting her instincts as the creature grew closer. They turned a corner and found a pile of rubble blocking the narrow street. The girl didn't hesitate. She pressed her small hands against the stones, and they began to shift and move. A path opened just wide enough for them to slip through. John couldn't hide his amazement, but there was no time. He grabbed the girl and ran. Behind them, the creature let out a frustrated roar, claws scraping the stones, unable to follow. They reached a larger open area, the center of the ruins, where collapsed towers cast long dark shadows. John took a moment to catch his breath. Looking around for another safe path, the girl stood beside him, chest heaving, eyes alert, scanning the shadows for danger. He noticed her small fingers brushing over one of the glowing symbols again, and for a brief moment, the ground beneath them lit up faintly. It was as if the ruins themselves were alive, reacting to her presence, protecting her, or maybe warning her. The creature appeared again, leaping from a ruined building across the courtyard, eyes blazing with hunger and intent. John knew they couldn't stay here. They had to move. He pulled the girl toward another passage, a narrow tunnel leading underground. The hum of the alien machinery grew louder as they entered, and the shadows seemed to hesitate at the threshold. It was as if the ruins themselves were sheltering them for now, giving them a momentary reprieve. John looked at the girl and smiled, trying to keep the fear from his voice. "You're amazing. I don't know how you do this," he said. She didn't smile back, but she looked at him with trust, a silent acknowledgement that together they could survive. The underground tunnels were dark and silent, the echoes of the chase fading behind them. But John knew this was only the beginning. Whatever hunted her in the ruins would not give up so easily. He held her hand tighter, stepping cautiously forward. The girl glanced at him, her glowing eyes reflecting both fear and determination. John understood one thing clearly. Whatever the future held, he would not let anything harm her. Not here, not in this ruined world, not anywhere. And deep in the shadows above, the creature paused, watching, waiting. Its hunger was patient, and it knew their journey was far from over. The underground tunnels were dark and silent, but not empty. John held the alien girl's small hand tightly as they moved carefully. Every sound echoed in the tunnels, the drip of water, the creak of broken metal, the faint hum of the alien machines. The girl's eyes darted to every shadow, her body tense, ready to react. John whispered softly, "It's okay. I'm here. Nothing will hurt you." She didn't answer, but she squeezed his hand, small and fragile, like a signal of trust. After a few minutes, they reached a small chamber lit by pale blue light from cracks in the walls. The girl finally let go of his hand and sat down on a smooth, flat stone, hugging her knees. John knelt beside her, studying her closely. She was small, delicate, and clearly exhausted from running. Her skin shimmered faintly in the soft light, and her hair seemed to move slightly, even though there was no wind. Something about her seemed otherworldly. John tried again, his voice gentle, careful. "What happened to you? Where are your people?" The girl's eyes filled with fear and sorrow, and she shook her head, refusing to answer. Then, slowly, she pulled the small bundle she had been carrying from under her arm. Inside was a tiny broken device, glowing faintly, like it contained a piece of her home. She pressed it to her chest, and for a moment, her whole body seemed to glow softly. John realized this was more than a toy, it was a memory, a piece of her past, maybe even a warning. She finally spoke, her voice soft, musical, and broken in a way he could almost understand. She pointed at the device, then at herself, then at the tunnels around them. John watched carefully, piecing together her gestures. She was telling him that she had survived an attack, that her people had been taken or destroyed, and that these tunnels, these ruins held secrets that could save her, or maybe destroy her. John's heart ached at the thought of her alone, surviving on her own. He realized how strong she was, yet how vulnerable too. "How did you survive here alone?" he asked softly. She looked down, her hands trembling slightly, and then touched the glowing device again. It was clear that it was her lifeline, her connection to the people she had lost. The sorrow in her eyes was deep, but there was also courage, a quiet strength that surprised him. Suddenly, a faint vibration ran through the ground, barely noticeable. The girl's head shot up, and her eyes glowed brighter. She pointed toward a wall of the chamber, tracing her fingers along a set of alien symbols etched into the stone. The symbols pulsed faintly, as if responding to her presence. John stepped closer, trying to understand. It was as if she could communicate with the ruins themselves, that they recognized her. She wasn't just a survivor, she was part of this place, and it had part of her. Then, without warning, she turned to John, her voice trembling. They took everyone. My family, my home. All gone," she whispered. John felt a lump in his throat, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He wanted to tell her it was going to be okay, that he would protect her, but words felt useless against the pain in her small frame. Instead, he simply sat beside her. Placing a hand on her shoulder, she leaned slightly into him, fragile yet desperate, seeking comfort. In the silence that followed, John realized the truth. This girl held secrets not just about her past, but about the ruins, the alien technology, and the danger that still hunted her. She had survived for a reason, and now she had someone she could trust. His mind raced with questions, but one thing was certain: he could not leave her alone. Not now, not ever. A faint glow from the broken device pulsed again, and the girl's eyes widened. She pointed to a narrow tunnel leading deeper underground. John understood. She was showing him that their journey was far from over, and whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The ruins held danger, mystery, and secrets, but also hope, and in that hope, John found purpose. For the first time, he knew he had to protect her, no matter what. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the ruined city above, eyes watched them, waiting for the moment to strike again. But for now, the girl and the human moved forward into the unknown, together, yet bound by secrets, fear, and the fragile spark of trust that had just begun to grow. The tunnels beneath the ruins were quiet, but the silence felt heavy. John walked carefully, holding the alien girl's small hand in his. Every step echoed faintly against the cold stone walls. The girl stayed close to him, her glowing eyes darting nervously at every shadow. He could feel her tension, and he realized just how much she had already been through. After some time, they reached a small chamber, larger than the tunnels. Faint alien markings glowed on the walls, and the air smelled faintly of metal and old machinery. The girl dropped to her knees and pressed her hands against the floor. John watched silently, not wanting to interrupt. It was clear she was communicating with the ruins somehow, trying to sense danger, or maybe seeking help. He marveled at her connection to this place. She wasn't just surviving. She was reading it, understanding it, almost like the ruins themselves listened to her. John knelt beside her and spoke softly. "I can't imagine what you've gone through, but I promise you, I won't let anyone hurt you." The girl looked at him, her glowing eyes wide and uncertain. Her small hand hovered over his arm, as if testing the truth of his words. John could see the weight of fear she carried, and he knew words alone weren't enough. He had to show her he meant it. He took a deep breath and knelt fully on one knee, bringing himself to her level. "I don't know who you are, or what your world was like," he said slowly. "But I do know this. As long as I live, I will protect you." The girl's eyes softened slightly, and for the first time, she allowed herself to lean a little toward him. John felt a small spark of hope, fragile, but real. For the first time, she trusted someone besides herself, and he would not betray that trust. Suddenly, the ground trembled faintly beneath them. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a faint growl echoed in the distance. John's eyes narrowed. Whatever had been hunting her in the ruins was still close. He stood slowly, putting himself between the girl and the tunnel's entrance. "You stay behind me," he said firmly. The girl nodded, her small hands gripping his, and he felt a surge of determination. He would face any danger for her, no matter how strong or fast it was. John led her through the winding tunnels, staying alert to every sound. The hum of the alien machines grew louder as they moved, and the girl occasionally touched the walls. Symbols lit up in response to her presence, guiding them, warning them. John realized that she was not just a survivor. She was the key to understanding this ruined place. And now her safety was his responsibility, a promise he would not break. They reached a chamber with a large broken doorway leading to the surface. The girl stopped and looked at John, eyes filled with question. He understood her meaning. This was the moment she had feared most, returning to the open ruins where danger waited. John knelt down again and looked into her eyes. "You have to trust me," he said softly. "I will not let anything happen to you. We move together, or not at all." The girl hesitated, then slowly nodded, her small hand slipping fully into his. He felt the weight of her trust and knew that it was his duty to keep her safe. As they stepped into the open ruins, the wind howled, tossing debris and dust around them. Shadows moved in the distance, shapes that could belong to nothing human. John tightened his grip on her hand and took the lead, every step careful but deliberate. The ruins were dangerous, filled with traps and unseen watchers, but he had made his promise, and he would keep it, no matter what. The girl glanced up at him, a tiny flicker of hope in her glowing eyes. John smiled faintly, despite the danger. Together, they moved deeper into the ruined city, two lives bound by trust, fear, and the unspoken promise that nothing, no creature, no shadow, no force, would separate them. And somewhere in the ruins above, eyes watched, calculating, but John didn't care. He had a mission now: protect her, guide her, and keep her alive, no matter what it took. The ruins had grown darker as night fell. Shadows stretched long across broken buildings and jagged rubble. John moved cautiously, holding the alien girl's hand. Her small fingers trembled in his grip, but she stayed close, trusting him completely. The air was thick with tension. The quiet was too quiet, and John knew danger lurked nearby. Suddenly, a sharp, metallic sound echoed through the ruins. The girl gasped and pulled back slightly, eyes wide with fear. Before John could react, shadows moved faster than his eyes could follow. A group of strange, armored figures appeared. Grabbing the girl in one swift motion, John tried to reach her, but they were too quick. The girl screamed, and her small hands clawed at the air. John's heart sank. He had failed to protect her, even for a second. The figures disappeared into a dark tunnel, taking the girl with them. John clenched his fists, anger and fear surging through him. He felt a burning determination in his chest. He would not let them take her. He took a deep breath and sprinted toward the tunnel entrance. The ruins around him seemed alive, whispering and shifting as if warning him. But John ignored it. There was no time for caution now, only action. He reached the tunnel and peered inside. The darkness was nearly complete, but faint. Glowing markings from the girl's presence lit a path. John followed quickly, moving silently but swiftly. He could hear distant voices, mechanical and alien, speaking in a language he didn't understand. The girl's small, frightened cries echoed faintly, guiding him deeper. Every shadow was a potential threat. Every step could trigger a trap. As he moved deeper, he found the chamber where the girl was held. She was inside a small enclosure. The glowing device she carried clutched tightly to her chest. The armored figures circled her, clearly guarding her. John realized they were not ordinary creatures. They were trained, precise, and deadly. He had to think fast, or they would capture her forever. He scanned the room for a way in. A fallen beam lay nearby, and broken machinery hummed softly. John quickly formulated a plan. He would create a distraction, then move in for the rescue. He grabbed the beam and slammed it against a nearby wall, sending sparks and noise flying. The armored figures turned, momentarily confused. John seized the moment and dashed forward. He kicked aside debris, diving toward the girl. One figure lunged at him, but John rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding a sharp blade. He grabbed the girl, pulling her close. She clung to him tightly, her small arms wrapped around his neck. The other guards advanced, but John pushed forward, using every ounce of strength he had. They ran through twisting corridors, the girl's glowing eyes lighting the way. John could hear the armored figures behind them, fast and relentless. Finally, they reached a narrow tunnel leading to the surface. John looked back. Only one figure followed, slower now, hindered by the tight space. He turned, grabbed a loose piece of rubble, and swung it with all his strength. The figure stumbled, giving them the chance to escape. They ran together into the open ruins, breathless, hearts pounding. John lowered the girl gently to the ground, checking to make sure she was unharmed. She looked up at him, glowing eyes wide, a mix of fear and awe in her gaze. "You saved me," she whispered softly. Almost in disbelief, John knelt beside her, placing a hand on her small shoulder. "I promised, didn't I? No one can take you from me," he said firmly. She nodded slowly, trusting him more than ever. For the first time, a small smile appeared on her face, fragile but real. Above them, the ruins were silent again, but John knew it wouldn't last. The danger that had taken her once would return, stronger and smarter. But for now, they had survived together, and in that moment, John realized something important. He would risk everything, every time, because this girl was not just someone to protect. She was the reason he would fight, the reason he could not give up. Together, they would face whatever the ruins held next. As they moved deeper into the city, preparing for whatever came, John felt a spark of hope. For the first time, the alien girl was safe, and their bond had grown stronger. But somewhere, hidden in the shadows, the armored figures watched, waiting for the moment to strike again. The ruins were quiet at last, but the silence felt heavy, almost alive. John and the alien girl stepped cautiously through the shattered streets, the night sky above them, stars flickering faintly through the cracks in the ruined city. The air smelled of dust and metal, but for the first time, John felt a small spark of hope. The girl walked beside him, glowing faintly in the darkness, her small hand still clutching his. They reached a tall, crumbling building, the tallest in the city. The girl stopped and turned to him, her glowing eyes shining with urgency. She pointed to the top, then to herself, and finally back at him. John realized she wanted to climb, to reach something important. He nodded silently, understanding her completely. Whatever was up there could change everything. The climb was dangerous, the stairs broken and slippery. John helped her carefully, hand over hand, step by step. The girl moved with surprising agility, her glowing skin lighting the path. Every sound echoed, the creak of metal, the rustle of rubble, even the distant howl of wind through the ruins. John's heart pounded with tension, but he never let go of her hand. He had promised to protect her, and he would keep that promise no matter the cost. Finally, they reached the top. Standing on a platform that overlooked the ruined city, the wind whipped around them, tugging at their clothes and hair. John looked down at the city, feeling the weight of all they had survived. The girl walked to the center of the platform, holding her small device tightly to her chest. She whispered something in her musical, broken voice, and John didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The device pulsed brighter, sending a wave of light across the ruins. Alien symbols on the walls and towers began to glow, connecting in lines like a network of power. John stepped back in awe, realizing the ruins were awakening. Responding to her presence, the girl's small voice grew stronger, singing in her alien language, and then, with a flash, the ruins seemed to breathe, alive once more. Suddenly, shapes appeared in the distance, others like her, alien children, survivors of the attack. They had been hidden in the ruins, waiting, watching. Unable to act alone, the girl looked at John, eyes shining with trust and gratitude. He realized that she had called them, using her connection to the city. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a leader. A bridge between her people and the human world. John stepped closer, kneeling beside her. "You did it. You brought them back," he whispered. She nodded, a faint smile on her glowing lips. For the first time, she looked at him not with fear, but with hope. He understood then that this was more than survival. This was a new beginning. For her people, and maybe even for humanity. As the first of the other alien children approached, John felt a warmth in his chest. He had started this journey simply trying to help a lost child. But now he realized he had been part of something much bigger. Something that could change the galaxy, quietly and without violence. The girl's trust in him had not only saved her life, it had sparked a chain of hope above them. The stars shone brighter, reflecting in her glowing eyes. The ruins no longer seemed threatening. They were alive, protective, ready to guide her people home. John stood beside her, hand in hers, ready to face whatever came next, because together, they were no longer just a human and a lost alien child. They were a team, a family, a spark of hope in a broken world. And somewhere, far beyond the ruins, the galaxy began to take notice. For the girl's voice, her courage, and her connection to the ruins would not be ignored. A new chapter was beginning, not just for her people, but for all who had ever believed that hope was impossible. And John knew, as he looked at her glowing, determined face, that whatever challenges came next, they would face them together, because this was their world now, a world they would rebuild, protect, and change forever.